Welcome to the Uncle's Channel. Thanks for watching today. And the world is full of awful, awful people. 72 awful people to be exact. And how do we get to that number? All we had to do was go to Metacritic and look at the number of people who gave Stray, the greatest cat game of all time, a negative review. How? How could they give it? I mean, look at the numbers on positive. 887. Smart people in the world. 70 confused people of the world. And 72 negative reviews. Holy cow. So today we're going to go through all of these negative reviews, or at least the ones that actually wrote something about the game, and figure out what went wrong with their life. Why did they turn out the way that they did? And after we're done going over the negative reviews, I'll take just a few minutes to talk about why I think Stray is the ultimate cat game and just a great game in general. Even if you don't like cats, I think it's a game you should definitely give a try. Because even when I was going through this Stray game, I was taking notes about why I think Stray is just such a great game. And of course, I take notes on all the games I play as I'm going through because we review games for the channel and I have to sort of keep tabs on what I think about a game as I'm going through it. And of course, when I'm taking these notes, oftentimes I keep my notes in my little cat journal here. And of course, that is our cat, Belle, hand-painted by my wife, of course. And if you'd like your own Belle journal, because Belle is awesome and the artwork is awesome, you can actually buy your own Belle journal in the Etsy link in the description of this video. Because I mean, let's be honest, if you're watching this video, you already love cats. But let's take a look at these negative reviews. So we have Krunkaz Chris, if I'm saying it right, maybe. He gave it a 1 out of 10, Chris, and wrote a cat game. ... See, already Chris is on the wrong track in his life. It should say a cat game in 3 exclamation points. That's where he's already going wrong. What's wrong? Ran out of remasters and remakes. See, the grammar is all off here. And it's probably because he's not a cat person. I mean, I'm shaking my head, Chris. I'm doing like you are. I'm shaking my head. Alright, next up we have Tiny Spiders. This game is garbage wrapped up in a nice design in Cupertino box, and I guess that means like from the Silicon Valley area, like Apple. The physics are strange. They're not strange. The gameplay is strange. The game's a little strange. It's a cat game, but you actually can't jump manually. That's true, you can't jump manually, but you can hit X when you're supposed to jump, when it tells you. I mean, the physics would way be off if you could just jump anywhere. It'd be a much more difficult game. It wouldn't flow as well. You can't fight. You can scratch and interact with objects via a digital prompt and some San Andreas style button mashing, but the ability to piss all over stuff was notably left out. Not very realistic for a cat game, if you ask me. Now, you can do a ton of cat stuff in this game, but he's right, you can't piss on stuff. But I mean, who really says like, hey, man, I wish I could have a cat game so I could piss on things, or I could go to the litter box. That's not the exciting part of being a cat. The exciting part of being a cat is all the other things that are included in the game, like finding a cozy place, rubbing up against things, knocking paint cans off the little edge, riding in a bucket. I mean, there's so many cool cat stuff in here. Scratching on the door, scratching on the windows. I mean, there's tons of stuff, and we're going to get to that in a bit, into the positive part of the game. But no, Tiny Spiders, you're wrong. No one wants to play a cat game for the piss. All right, so next up we have Eyeballs. Ah, I see. Very clever. You got the Z in there. It's supposed to be like eyeballs. Wow. But Eyeballs gave it 0 out of 10, which means there is no redeeming factor in this game for him. It says, unfortunately, this game was way too hyped and therefore is getting too much praise. So that means Eyeballs here is just too cool. And if something getting hype, he automatically has to hate it. Zero the hero. Windows 10 only? Are you kidding me? And chose to write it 3 separate times. And so you're going to give a game a 0 out of 10 just because you don't have the platform to play the game on? I mean, that seems sort of selfish, don't you think? All right, we have more of a mid-tier or a more positive negative review because he gave it a 4 out of 10 here and wrote, an adventure game where 4 hours feels too long, gameplay is boring, don't consider buying this more than a few dollars. No. You got it all wrong, man. Yeah, the game is it's only about 4 to 5 hours. He's right. That's just about the game length, but it doesn't feel too long. The game actually goes by very quickly, considering you actually get to do all these cat things, and the gameplay's not boring. It actually varies throughout the game. You actually have a lot of little different mini games you can go through, different platforming sections to a degree, outrunning some of the enemies. There's a lot of stuff in the game, a lot of puzzles to solve. It actually reminded me a little bit of Resident Evil in a way, which is a weird comparison, I know. But as far as like figuring out puzzles, collecting items, figuring out where to go, interacting with your environment, reading clues, it was sort of that type of game in a lot of ways. 2 out of 10. I hate the game, played only 4 hours and 48 minutes, and during the jailbreak part, I nearly punched a hole in my wall. Let's break that one down for a second. First off, If you almost punched a hole in the wall, you got some anger problems, and you need to work on that, Victor. So that's our first bit. And second of all, you really narrowed it down 4 hours and 48 minutes, like not 1 minute longer. That's just an interesting, I guess you looked at your gameplay exactly, but you really wanted to get in there on that. Honesty rates. So here we go. Somebody who claims to be honest. So as endearing as the game is, I encountered numerous issues that greatly impact my experience. The earlier chapters of the game were brilliant, but as the story progressed and more was happening on the screen, the amount of lag I encountered made some puzzles far more frustrating than necessary. The frame rate regularly dropped, PS5, meaning I was launching myself into enemies rather than towards the goal. The game outright crashed on me twice during the stealth sections, and I often encountered floating clothes rather than entire bodies of NPCs that were rendered non-interactable. Wow, this guy... I don't. This is a fairly nuanced review here, but I didn't experience any of that. I played on the PS5 just like him. I didn't have any frame rate issues, and I definitely didn't have any of this things not rendering correctly. The ending of the game also felt a little lacking after what had been built up leading to this. The story was well presented, which is why the ending felt a little flat comparatively, as I'd hoped for the epilogue of sorts. I actually thought the ending was pretty solid. Ultimately, I've read the game based on the ideas and what worked well for me. I was intrigued despite the difficulties I encountered, and had I not suffered so many issues, I would have definitely rated it higher and look forward to seeing future projects from the team. That's a fair review. I mean, we had different issues, but if he had issues, yeah, he had issues, and so that's fair. And the story might not hit home as well for some people as others. Honesty rates, at least you're honest and you gave a decent review of it. You didn't just hate the game because you thought it was cool to hate. Axmed said, give it a 0 out of 10. It says, I believe this boring game does not deserve more than 1 point, so I will put 0. Well, the game is really boring. Just run and meow. You are serious and you want to say this game is better than Elden or will be better than the new Year of War. All right, obviously he's talking about Elden Ring and God of War. And honestly, that's like comparing two very different style of games here. This is an indie game that's focused on giving a puzzle adventure with a cat versus a AAA game that's an open world experience. I mean, these are two totally different games. You can't just simply say because it's not this other game that it deserves a 0 out of 10. I mean, that's Axmed. You need to get your head on straight, man. Now we have a skilled player who gave it 2 out of 10. This is just terrible, man. The moment the game starts being really fun, it ends, and I'm left with nothing. This should have been at least 10 hours long, and I would have asked for a refund if it wasn't for PS Plus. So you're going to give a game 2 out of 10 because you were having so much fun with it that you wanted it to be longer, and when it ended, you're going to give it a 2 out of 10. That seems pretty selfish for a skilled player. All right, 0 out of 10. This game is pure garbage. You don't have nothing to do. Boring gameplay, nothing good here. I don't know why people like this game. It's a basic cat game for me. The stuff in this game is casual. Don't like it. I'm sorry. Basic cat game. I've played so many cat games on this channel and so many trash cat games, and this is by far and above a great cat game. So you've just misunderstood what a cat game is. This person says 1 out of 10, just plain boring, no real story, puzzles way too easy. Yes, it is cute, but after 3 hours I could not stand anymore. I mean, come on, man. You acknowledge some good things about the game and you can give it 1 out of 10. I think people are being way too harsh. I think people really take this polarizing view. Either they think it's a perfect game, 10 out of 10, or they want to really just throw it, to the dogs over here and give it a 0 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10. I mean, find the middle ground. If you had fun for the first, 3 hours, give it some credit. I mean, the game's only 5 hours long. If you enjoyed 3 to 5 hours, that should be at least a 60. All right, 0 out of 10. While playing the game, you're just walking with Cad. There are not more. Apart from this, graphics are not that bad. Bad in Twitter. People comparing this trash with masterpiece like Red Dead Redemption 2. Boring game. Do not waste your time. If you have extra free time, then you can play it. Smiley face. There's a very conflicting review because he tries to leave on this happy note here. Says the graphics are not bad, and really he's just trashing the game because it's not as good as Red Dead Redemption 2, or he's just trashing the game because of all the drama that's going on with it. I mean, come on. All right, here's someone put 1 out of 10. Released an undercooked, mediocre, unoriginal, boring game. Get blasted by the critics. Add cat. Have cat nuts from all over the world. Cry genius and rate 10. Adding the cat was clearly a last-minute idea to save a dirt cheap IP, and thanks to people's idiocracy and gullibility, it totally worked. Did you not notice the trailer for this came out like 2 or 3 years ago, and it had a cat in it all along. I mean, the game has been based on a cat the entire time. I don't know where this guy's getting his story from, but that is completely inaccurate. Um, this person here gave it a 0 out of 10 and said the game was perfect with a lot of exclamation points. Maybe he left off the one. So there we have all the main negative reviews. I didn't read through all of them. You can go on Metacritic and you can check out the ones that I would have missed there. But let's talk about why this game is a fantastic game. Alright, so in a Stray game, it actually has a pretty interesting story here. You're a cat who's sort of transported, or stuck in this robotic world, and before you get in there, you actually get to interact with, your fellow cats. And it's a sad little tragic story when you finally get knocked into that robotic world. But when you get in there, you're trying to find your way out. You have to talk to these robotic strangers who are, they got a pretty interesting story on their own about why they're trapped in the city and sort of their life going on outside the city. It's a good little cyberpunk reality going on. And as opposed to what some of these negative reviews said, I think the game's actually pretty well written, and you can actually feel some of the emotion behind the characters if you actually explore some of the dialogue throughout the village here. If you just simply rush through the whole thing, then you miss some of those intricate details that are actually bring the world to life a little bit more. But obviously, the main draw here is you get to play as a cat. And there are so many cat things that you can do. And first off, obviously you get to meow. And when you do meow, the meow actually comes out of the speaker on your PlayStation controller. And you can actually feel some of the vibrations, which is really cool. And speaking of that, when you claw something, you actually get to claw with the left and right triggers. When you do that, you actually feel the vibrations like you're actually clawing. It's a little bit more, I guess, what's the word? Not integrated. Immersive, that's the word. A little bit more immersive when it comes to that. And also, like when you're like purring your comfy little spot or whatnot, you actually feel the vibrations in your controller of your purring. And so there's a lot of things that try to bring this game to life for cat lovers, which for being a cat lover, that means it's like the ultimate game. But there's got so many things right about the cat, like the curiosity of being a cat. How you actually like you mess with the buttons on the radio, or you mess with the remote control, or you search for a comfy place to be in, or when you're following somebody, actually getting to walk behind them, you actually feel like a cat as you're following your owner to go somewhere inside the house. There's just so much. Or even walking on the piano. There are so many little cat details that if you're a cat owner, this is like bringing the life, or the world of a cat's life into the palm of your hands. And it's just awesome to sort of experience all of this as if you're a cat. And I've played enough cat games to know that really no one's got it right so far. And Stray has actually got down pat what it's like to be around the cat all the time and experience sort of that reality. But even outside of just the awesomeness of feeling like a cat, the mechanics in the game are extraordinarily smooth. Yeah, they're right, you can't just jump whenever you want to, but the game prompts you when you have the ability to jump. Because there's such a open environment here, you would just simply fall to your death so many times if you could just have open jump. And the game actually tries to prevent things like that from happening, and so it allows for a little bit more of a streamlined approach. You can still explore like so much of the world here, and that's part of the excitement behind it, is getting to explore and meet all these different characters. But yeah, it gives you more of a direct path when you can jump. Sort of like with Ocarina of Time. You didn't have open jump in that game, and that's a fantastic game. I mean, one of the best Zelda games of all time, and you can't jump except when it tells you that you can jump. I compare that type of jumping system to what you have in Stray. Nothing wrong with that. And like I mentioned earlier in the review too, some of the puzzles feel a little bit like Resident Evil type games to me, where they actually give you hints of what you're supposed to do. You have to search for clues, use those clues to solve a puzzle, and they have little mini games of, like outrunning things and, avoidance and such like that. It's very similar to how the Resident Evil games are played in that aspect. And I know you're like, it can't be like Resident Evil. Those are horror games. You're absolutely right. I'm just simply talking about the mechanics of finding clues, utilizing those clues. It reminded me of that type of puzzle game, at least in my opinion. Now, the graphics in the game are wonderful. You can see throughout the entire game, the textures on the cat, did a fantastic job of that. The world that you're exploring, you get high visibility from far away, and it really brings this cyberpunk world to life. And there's a lot of games that haven't done the cyberpunk world justice, and this one brought it to life in a little bit different light, a little bit more humor, but also sadness at the same time. And there's a cool take on it. It actually reminded me a little bit of the world in Chappie. Has anybody ever seen that movie about the robotic rabbit? Storyline totally different. I'm just simply talking about the cyberpunk world that's inside of this game. Now, people are right. The game only takes like 5 to 6 hours to beat, depending on the pace that you want to go through it. And you can actually earn a trophy for doing it in like 2 hours or something like that. And so it is a fairly short game, but once again, it's a $30 indie game, and I think that's a pretty fair price considering there is replayability to collect these trophies. There is replayability as a relaxing game to experience a fun cat game, and so there's a lot of stuff here that's a replayability inside the game. So for it to be a $30 game that's only 5 hours long, and also if you're a PlayStation owner, just simply upgrade to premium for the rest of your months that you have left on your account, and it's probably going to be like $30, $40 anyway, so you can almost get this game for free if you're interested in that premium side. And I'm not, trying to promote you to jump to PlayStation Premium. Whoa. I'm just simply saying it like that's a pretty good deal if you wanted to go that route. But overall, guys, Stray is a fantastic cat game. There's so many bad cat games out there, and you can check out a lot of them on my channel here. They oftentimes they come to the Switch. I've got another bad cat game coming out soon. It's called like Nincat, like a Ninja Cat. I mean, I review a lot of cat games, and Stray is the first one that ever got it right. So if you want to play a fun cat game, check Stray out. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other cat review, cat game videos listed up above. As always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.